In the deep recesses of one's mind, there is a voice, a guiding light through the darkness, a connection to the other side.
You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a poor little me.
Pathway to spiritual that echoes with enlightenment. The voice of spirit.
The voice of spirit.
You are a function of this total galaxy, bounded by the Milky Way, and that furthermore, this galaxy is a function of all other galaxies.
Your journey starts here and now. With your host and connection to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you happen to be in the world. You're very, very welcome to KCOR Radio, and you're listening to Leo Bonomo, of course. I've got a lovely, lovely lady, an authoress that is on the show tonight, and she's talking about her latest book called Returning to Me. And we'll ask Phyllis Walsh about the book and a little bit about her life and how the book came into being, those kinds of things. A lot of it is very personal, and it's through Phyllis's own personal experiences that this has occurred. So it's something very, very dear to her heart. And we're also going to talk about society's reluctance to discuss the subject of death and that, because it can be a very testing thing, and we all have different ways of dealing with it, and some of us just clam up and some throw ourselves into work, etc. So without any further ado, hi Phyllis, how are you?
Hello Leo, it's absolutely lovely to talk to you tonight, and thank you so much for having me on your show.
It's a real pleasure. It's nice to get authors on as well to talk about their books, and because books are often a labour of love, aren't they? You know.
Exactly, and I suppose like everybody has a book inside them, I feel, and if they can share some little tools of wisdom to help other people along their own journey, I think everything is worthwhile.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit of your background, Phyllis, and then how you came to write the book.
Yes, well, Leo, my book, which I called Returning to Me, it came about firstly after the untimely passing of my young husband, Owen, back in February 2006. And his death was completely a bolt from the blue, unexpected. He appeared in very good health. He was young, and there was absolutely no preempting of his untimely passing. So it was a complete shock for myself and for everybody who knew Owen.
Yeah, and I suppose the suddenness of it has almost as much impact as the passing and that separation itself, because I think if it's expected in a way, or you think, well, we know they're ill, I was going to say it softens the blow. That sounds a little bit cruel. It doesn't soften the blow, but it's not. It doesn't hit you as hard. But when it's completely out of the blue, and it was a sudden illness, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. I mean, he didn't have an illness, Leo. He had a massive heart attack, and he died in less than 3 minutes. So, I mean, I talk to people, between the difference between a sudden death of a loved one and an expected death. They both have their own personal hits. But I think a sudden death is like a personal tsunami. It completely takes the floor from your life in a certain way, because there's no expectation of this. And as I said, he was a young man. He didn't smoke. He wasn't a drinker. So it was very unexpected and very shocking. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that takes more time to recover, doesn't it?
It does, because I think, as you said, if you know a loved one has, we say, a prolonged illness, and they're not going to make it. At least there is some degree of expectation, and it's still a terrible shock. I'm not in any way diminishing somebody who, who's given some diagnosis, but a sudden death has a different connotation, and I think the initial impact is much more severe to the people who are left behind, to pick up the.
Yeah, I completely understand. As I was going to say a coincidence. It's not a word I like, as you know, because I don't believe in them. But a few weeks ago, my daughter's boyfriend's cousin passed away very suddenly, and she had heart problems herself, and but no one, she was taking pills. Nobody expected anything, and I know a lot of deaths have occurred because of this heat, but she was 16 and she just went, and it really, really shook everyone. It was quite something. And again, I think if someone unlike your husband, if someone lives to a fairly good age, 60, 70, and they drop, people think, well, they've had 60 years, but certainly with your husband, at such a young age, it's a very hard blow.
Yes, it is, and I'm very sorry for your daughter's boyfriend's cousin. I mean, that is a very tragic case. Only 16 years of age, and to die suddenly like that. I mean, the emotional fallout for the family will last a long time. Absolutely.
Yeah, and bless you for that. They are devastated, and we're shocked as well. And it's as you say, you think, well, 16, they're fine. They're on pills, they'll be okay. I think we have a way of rationalising it, don't we? So that we try not to get stressed. I mean, it's not that we don't care, but we try and rationalise it and we tuck it away and think, oh yeah, she's not well. She's getting hospital treatment. She'll be okay. We do rationalise it like that. So tell us how this second book came about.
Well, first of all, Leo, it took me a couple of years to start to write this book, and I realised that there was a niche out there in society for, I suppose, covering certain aspects of, losing a spouse. I mean, my book is purely, it's for anybody who's lost a loved one, but specifically for somebody who's lost a spouse, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend. And I just thought that there was a need to speak about this, and to speak about the position, especially for younger widows or widowers, because it's not an expectation for your young wife or young husband to pass, especially in given any sudden circumstances. Yeah. So I call the book Returning to Me, because I think when you are young, as I was left a young widow, when you are left a young widow, I think you lose a lot of your sense of identity and who you were. And in trying to get back the person I was before my husband died, I had to go through certain processes. I had to look deep inside myself and see, well, exactly what is my position, my new position in life. I mean, I had 2 young children at the time. I had a 3-year-old. Hugh, as you know, has special needs, and Sophia was only 9. So although I was still a mother, my other identity of being a wife, I was no longer a wife. I was pushed into that very quick transition of widowhood, which I did not know how to handle.
Yes, I can see how that would affect you, because I suppose you move from being single to being a partner to being a wife. So they are identity changes, aren't they, as you've said? Because to be honest, it never really struck me like that. But you do change identity. And then, of course, when half of that is taken away, then there is a loss of sense of identity. And it isn't something that I'd consciously was aware of. But we do lose that. And I can see why the book is called Returning to Me, because it's a kind of returning to normality of a kind. It's returning to an identity that you feel comfortable with. And I'm sure that that's something that so many people would identify with.
Absolutely. I think we're all part of who we are as people. Are made up by the associations we have in life, especially the very close associations. For example, a partner, your husband, your wife, your parents, siblings. But the person that you spend your life with, when they're removed from your immediate surrounding, your environment. Yeah. It does create a sense of, I suppose, disorientation. And with that disorientation comes a sense of disillusionment and where, what you're meant to be doing and who you are and where you go from here. Because, people still outwardly, they still saw I had 2 children, and people would sometimes come up and say, oh, does your daughter, son look like you or the father, having no awareness that, my husband had died. So there's this added impact of pain and having to explain to people, well, actually, my husband is, passed on. And so you're constantly reassessing who you are in society and trying to get back the person you were prior to the passing is, I think, extremely difficult and very challenging. So that was really why I wrote my book, Leo, to help other people who have found, or God forbid, will find themselves in a similar position in their own life.
Yes. And again, I think it's a very, very valid subject. We had interviewed a few weeks ago, and it's on archive, a lovely lady called Alua Arthur, who's a death doula, and I'd never heard of that before.
No.
Her job is slightly different because they do deal with the after effects of someone passing, but what they tend to do is focus on what happens running up to it. So this is generally people that have made provision for funerals and that, and it's just talking them through what happens and their family, and the family gets involved. So the family have some understanding. It's always different when the impact hits you, but they have some understanding of what goes on. So that I was fascinated to learn about that particular job. But that's all pre the passing, and it's quite practical. It talks about funeral arrangements and making different kinds of arrangements and a will. So there's a run up to it. But of course, most people don't have that privilege. A passing, especially something very sudden, just hits you like a train, and it is something that we all deal with differently. And I think the advice that you give in the book, I haven't read it yet. We're going to go on to because it's just recently been released, isn't it? And it's on Amazon, and we'll talk about that a little bit after the break. Because there's a slight problem with ordering in the States, which we'll sort out for listeners. But it's very valid to have information on how to deal with it, because again, it's not something that really struck me. You see a woman with children, you tend to assume there's a family there. or at least if there's a separation, that the father is still with us. And again, we, as a society, we just have these fixed ideas, don't we? There's a woman with children, it's a family, complete with a husband. So there are a lot of things we assume, aren't there?
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, it's also very painful. Well, it was very painful, myself, shortly after, when I used to see other couples, especially, with the father and the children together, because it actually it compounds your own grief, and it also compounds deeply that added sense of loss. Because everywhere you look, it is a couple orientated society, Leo, and especially when you have been part of a particular type of partnership and you're single again. I mean, this is the other aspect I cover in my book. I didn't know how to be single again. And I know that might sound a bit odd, but when you have somebody alongside you for a set amount of time and you find yourself alone and isolated, and the dynamics of dating had changed so much in such a short time since I became married. So there's so many different dynamics that I had to deal with on a personal level. And, for about 5 or 6 years, the notion of even dating again never entered my head, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And I can understand that, because I was married for a long time, as you know, 33 years. And in the end, I just couldn't take the situation. So I filed for divorce. And I know exactly what you mean about how do we date, because it's not just a question of so many years have passed. It's a little bit of practice. It's, as you say, society's whole view of what's wrong or right or how we date now is completely different. And it's something else that you've brought up, which I find very interesting, is I lost my dad, and that was very sudden. In fact, I was contacted by the guy that had to do the autopsy. That was the first time I found out, because of the circumstances. And there were some times when I would see a gentleman that really resembled my dad, and it would bring it back. But I think with parents or grandparents, if we're walking along the road and we see older people, we don't automatically think, that reminds me of my dad. For me, there's a slightly different connection there. But I understand completely when you see couples and children, there is a whole different dynamic there, isn't there? Because you expect certain things, and they're constant reminders.
Yes, they are constant reminders. And what I found particularly poignant was when I used to look at old couples together, linking arm in arm or even hand in hand, and instantly you feel cheated. You feel cheated. Well, you'll never be able to grow old with this person, and you're left in this sort of limbo land by yourself. And life, unfortunately, it isn't always fair, Leo, and I realize this. And tomorrow isn't promised to anybody. So there's a section in my book, for example, I'll give you a little vignette of this. The way people are inclined to put away things for a rainy day, good clothes, their china or whatever. But I remember only a year before Owen died, he bought these very expensive, well, actually it was a present, these beautiful shoes he was given. And he started wearing them every day. And I said to him, would you not put those away for a rainy day? Because I said, they're going to get destroyed and so on. And he said, no, he said, I like the shoes. They're comfortable. They're nice looking. And he said, I'm going to wear them. So my point is that he did wear the shoes. He enjoyed them. And, less than a year he passed, where if he had put the shoes away, he would never have got the enjoyment. So I realize now, things should be used and not put away. If you have a good suit or a nice dress, don't keep them in a wardrobe, lying there in the darkness. Put them on. Yeah. They're meant to be worn. If you have good china, take them out, use them. If you have nice scented candles, burn them. What I'm trying to say is, we should live in the now and not put things off for a tomorrow that may or may not happen.
I absolutely agree with you, because I know lots of people do that. They put away things for best. I had a wonderful suit that cost me, I think it was £600. It was a Boss suit.
Wow.
And that was £600 in 1998.
Wow. Yeah.
And I did keep it for best. And when I moved to where I am now, I took it out of what I thought was a safe wrapper. You get these things,
yes.
And it was moth-eaten.
Oh.
And I'd hardly worn that suit.
I know.
So I wasn't thrilled, but I gave it to the homeless. I mean, it's got a few holes in it, but it can't be repaired. But I absolutely know what you mean. If we buy something because of the enjoyment, and to
yes.
stick it up and say, well, I'm only going to enjoy that maybe once a year.
Yes.
I think that is something that's, again, very, very relevant to listeners, because we do this. We buy them for the enjoyment of having them. And in a sense, while we own them, we don't have them, we don't use them. I think that's a wonderful thing to point out, because we do live our lives like that, don't we?
Yes, we do. And as I say, when Owen died at such a young age and so suddenly, I realised, well, I'm going to start using the nice things, that I have, and not to be putting them away in a nice cabinet, or, keeping them for the future, as I say, that now I realised isn't promised to any of us, and that we should always try to live in the moment and appreciate who and what we have in our lives at all times.
I think that's absolutely right. And again, it's just telling people that you love them as well, isn't it? When you get the chance to. I know one of the worst things that can happen is that, and all couples have a disagreement, and you have a disagreement, you have a row, and you storm out of the house, and you don't come back, and the other person really feels that, after all our marriage, for example, this is what we're left with. I couldn't say goodbye properly. We couldn't be happy. So I think it's very, very, very relevant and interesting. I think your book would be full of things like that. We're going to go into a break in a few seconds. And when we come back, we're going to be asking Phyllis what kind of advice that she would like to give to people. If you want to call in, it's 702-425-9230 to discuss this, and we will be straight back after the break.
This is the Voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
To understand something spiritually, you must experience it. And in order to experience it, you have to experience it in your imagination.
Explore with us by calling 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Everything that now exists was once imagined. Therefore, everything that is going to exist must first be imagined.
Back with your guide to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Leo Bonomo.
After these brief words from our sponsors.
Have you ever wanted to connect with your spiritual guides or celestial family? Join Joanna L. Ross on Universal Unity New Earth Consciousness every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Let Joanna show you how to raise your vibrational frequency, activate your DNA, and merge with the fifth dimensional frequencies as we align with Source and our soul's blueprint as well as divine purpose. It's time for change and start the magical and mystical journey of the ascending human. Universal Unity, New Earth Consciousness, Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and 1 p.m. Eastern, only on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Looking for a radio show like no other?
We need something brand new.
Then tune into the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and get ready for The Quantum Shift. A great shift of consciousness is sweeping across the Earth. Are you ready for the dimensional shift?
It is amazing, is it not?
The Quantum Shift.
Hosted by Dr. Sam Muggsy, Kent Dunn, and Drake Bailey.
Be part of the fifth dimensional reality, where consciousness prevails and the universal law of one is the only true reality. The Quantum Shift. Live Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug's adoption story started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
KCOR Las Vegas.
All the time.
Of course I listen.
I listen all day. It's the best music.
KCOR, the new underground source for news, talk, and music at KCORradio.com. Tell your friends, email them, or Facebook them, or Twitter them.
Hey, are we done here? Because I'm losing my buzz.
Welcome back to the Voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
There's no accidents in this universe. We all show up here with a purpose. There's an intelligence that is a part of everything and everyone, and all of us are connected to it.
Connect with us on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Even better, join us live in our chat room at KCORradio.com. To get a free reading during the show, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers, use Skype name KCOR Radio. And now, inspirational clairvoyant medium, psychic, and your connection to the spirit, the host of the Voice of Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, and a very, very warm welcome back. We're talking to Phyllis Walsh, an authoress, and some of her experiences. And we're talking about her new book, Returning to Me. And we're talking about advice and different things. And sometimes during the break, we have wonderful talks about various things. And one thing that was brought up that is very, very valid is that we do tend to collect things and we keep them for best, and we polish and dust them and leave them there, but we don't enjoy them. And that's something we were talking about, wasn't it, Phyllis?
Yes, absolutely. And as I say, the shoes, they were only just one little example of how I realized that we should use what we like and the things that we enjoy in life, because life is it's so fast, we're so busy, and not to put them away for a rainy day, as I said before, that may or may not happen.
Yes. Because people didn't hear that, just run us through that thing, because it's very valid. It's very poignant as well, what happened. And it's a great example.
Oh, yes, about own shoes, was it?
Yes, it was, yes.
Yes, no, he was just about a year before he died. He was given a present of these beautiful designer shoes. And I advised him, at the time, I said, they're beautiful and you should, keep them, put them away for your good wear or some nice occasion. And he said, no, he said, I like the shoes. They're attractive and they're very comfortable. So he wore them actually nearly every day. And, practically up to the point where, when he passed. And I realized, if he had put them away for that special occasion that may or may not have happened, he would never have enjoyed the use of the shoes. And they were meant to be worn and, as I say, not put away in some shoebox at the back of a cupboard somewhere. So that taught me a valuable lesson, that we should use the items and our possessions that give us some little sense of joy and appreciation.
Yes, and it's, what they say, it's the little things in life that make life worthwhile. And again, I think if you've got a nice coat and it's been bought by someone that you treasure, don't hide it away. Get the enjoyment out of it, because it's bought for enjoyment. It's not bought as a museum piece stuck behind glass. Yeah, exactly.
And as I say, and the other thing I say to people, the process of grief, it's a very mysterious. It's very mysterious in nature, and it varies from person to person. Everybody's grief is subjective. And they have their own ways and their own time frames of dealing, with the loss in their life. So my advice is to get rid of the shoulds in your life. For example, if a certain time period has passed, don't be saying, I should be feeling like this or I should be feeling like that. Absolutely not. How you feel at any particular time is normal and correct for you. It may not be the same for the next person, but that's the thing about grief. If you start, yes, and if you start putting shoulds into your bereavement process, it's going to add stress to your recovery. And this is very, very important. It's a process, and like all processes, it's going to take time, and you have to give time. So. And the other thing is, it's very important to focus on all the other areas and people in your life that are still relevant and important and that have not changed. So instead of focusing on the huge void, and it is a very big void, I'm not in any way diminishing that, but to try and focus on all the other areas that are going on in your life, your home, your family, your friends, your neighborhood, pets, any familiarity that you feel brought you comfort before your loss will also continue to bring you comfort at that time while you're processing the grief.
Absolutely. My dad used to have a saying, and because of this discussion today, and I'm going to bring up something that Tina, the producer, brought in as well, because absolutely valid again. And I now see that in a different way. My dad used to say, never put off tomorrow what you can do today. And I always took that as, if you need to get something done, usually sort of work related or that, don't hang about, do it now, don't leave it till tomorrow. But I see that in a completely different light now of, giving someone a hug. As you said, I think during the break, if you're, I think it was Tina, if her son wants something today, she'll get it for him today, because that's the enjoyment of it. You get it, you enjoy it.
Exactly. And as I say, we're all so busy. We're all caught up now, and life is so busy, and where everybody seems to be rushing to get to the end of their day. And it's sad, really, because as I say, if certain fundamental key people are suddenly removed from your life, you realize what is the rush? Why are we in such a hurry? Like a hurry for what exactly? For what purpose and to what end? We should savor every minute, because this journey where each and every one of us are on is a gift, and we're here for a particular purpose, to help one another. I really feel we are here to help one another, and the meaning of life is to find your gift. We all have gifts, and the purpose of our life and the gift is to give it away to other people and to help one another.
Absolutely.
So this is what I'm trying to do, from the sadness of my own loss and my own journey. I am trying to help other people, with the coping mechanisms and the tools which helped me eventually come through the other end. I'm not the same person, Leo, but I'm a different, and I'm a stronger person. I think, it's like the phoenix. You have to reinvent. You have to reinvent yourself, and your own identity and your own perception of yourself in this new normal, and in this new life that you're handed.
I think again, I think that's absolutely right. Something that Tina said, which is really poignant to this program and the subject, is that she said, funerals are not for the dead. Funerals are for the living, to help say what they should have said to the person once they're alive. And
Yes.
You're saying a very similar thing. Don't hold back. If you have something you enjoy doing, do it.
Yes, I remember Owen used to say, don't give me flowers when I'm dead. Give me the flowers that, when I'm alive, that I can enjoy them. And so many times, you see such beautiful flowers and flower arrangements at funerals, and how lovely, when the person's alive, to be able to give them flowers and say, I love you, or I was thinking of you, or just something small. Because also to say to somebody, I love you is lovely. But I also read somewhere today to say, I appreciate you. We all want to be validated and appreciated in our lives. And we all want to be visible, and to know that our purpose and we're not just existing, that our lives are of value, and they are meaningful to each person that you touch in your life. So yes, give people flowers now while we're still alive.
Absolutely, and we do find that, with I found that with long lost cousins that I've been, I wouldn't say reunited with, because I never met them, but just and strangely enough, a gentleman called Robert Bonomo, who I'm going to interview. He's an astrologer and everything, and he just contacted me on Facebook, I think it was. No, he emailed me, he found me on the site and said, hey, we're cousins. And it's like, it's just wonderful to meet and to discuss, and we're in the same kind of profession, and it's just mind-blowing. And to appreciate that, because in a sense I can't think of anything worse than him turning up. He's younger than me, turning up to my funeral whenever that's going to be, and thinking, I read about him, or I've been told about him from the family, but I hadn't bothered to get in contact. So
yes.
It's a wonderful thing.
That's the wonder of the internet now, because connections can be made, with long lost family and friends, and that's the beauty, that you're just a point in case with your cousin. So that's a wonderful achievement.
It is. Tell us a little bit about the book. So we can get the book on Amazon UK. I think it was $4.99.
Yes, in both Kindle and in paperback version, and also from my website, phylliswalsh.com as well.
Fantastic. Now, I know that it's also out in Amazon US. There is a little bit of a problem there, isn't there? Although people could still order it by Kindle, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's just the paperback version. There's a little bit of a problem, but I hope that'll be corrected next week, please God. Yes.
Yeah, and it's just a price thing. It's a typo, isn't it?
Basically. It is exactly.
Yeah. So if
yes.
anyone looks at the UK thing and think, oh, that's fair enough, and then they're in the States and think, well, I'll just buy it in the States, and oh my God, it is a typo. So please don't worry.
Yes.
I once saw my book, which retails for $8.99 plus postage on Amazon, because you get resellers. And I took a snapshot of it because this guy was selling it at £999, and I thought, I'm at the wrong end of this. Although that's an exorbitant price, but people are amazing. I've seen that for 50, 60 quid, and I'm thinking somebody's making money out of this, and it's not me.
So I'm not the only one, Leo.
No, you're not the only one. So if anyone's listening and you want it from the US, you can get it on Kindle. If not, just wait a week, maybe a little longer, and you can get it for the right price. It's kind of amusing but frustrating, isn't it? Because a novel, especially, is our baby, isn't it? And we're very protective of it and that, and we think, oh, there it is, it's all gone out, and we check the site and we think, oh no. But
that's right. As I say, my book is only out 5 days. It's not even a week. So I suppose it's just an initial teething problem that I hoped will be corrected, I think, Wednesday of next week. So all going well. Yes.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to look it up, it's Phyllis Walsh, and it's called Returning to Me. And it's out on Amazon. As I say, you may want to wait a week to get it for the right price. Tell us a little bit about your first book, The Illusion of Mortality, because that's a wonderful book as well, isn't it?
Yes, well, thank you, Leo. Well, I wrote The Illusion of Mortality. That was my first book back in 2012. And, again, what brought about that first book was there was a lot of very interesting paranormal dimensions, which were happening at quite a consistent basis shortly after her own passed. And at first I thought it was a product of a bereaved mind, but I realized that these particular events were happening, on a regular basis, and I started writing them down. And I said I have enough nearly, for a book here. And I thought it would be interesting to tell other people that I was left with no doubts that our physical life is definitely not the end, that who we are, what makes us up as individuals, our mind and our spirituality and our spirit definitely survives after the physical body ends. So I did a lot of research, actually, which I found very interesting. And that was my first book, The Illusion of Mortality. And I hope to reissue that and to also have that. It is on my website. There might be a problem downloading it. I'm not quite sure, but I'm also working on that issue as well, Leo.
Fantastic, and at least people know where to make contact to buy either the first book or the second, or again on Amazon. We've got about 10 minutes because I know you're a very, very busy lady and you've got lots to do. So Phyllis is only here for the next 10 minutes. If you're listening to the show thinking we'll call in after the break and have a chat, if you want to call us right now, it's 702-425-9230 if you have a quick question for Phyllis. How do you think you're going to go on from here? Do you think there's, because I certainly feel, I've just got a yes from my guide, do you feel that there are other books in you, Phyllis, around this subject or different things?
Well, yes, Leo, I have another book. I'm going to start working on a third book, hopefully in the next month. I just want to try and, get this book off the ground first. But yes, as I said, I think we all have valuable lessons and experiences that we can share with one another, and hopefully touch people's life in a positive way. And so, as I say, I have a son who has special needs, and I know there are a lot of people out there with children, with similar conditions. So this is another subject matter I think needs to be spoken about as well. And yes, so that's on the pipeline, as they say.
Yeah. I think that's great. Is there anything else you want to talk about with regard to returning to me in the last 5 or 6 minutes that we have?
Yes, I do, Leo. I'm just concerning about the 5 stages of grief. The first stage of denial, I think people might feel is the most difficult, but I found the last stage of acceptance is actually the most difficult, because when you go through all the stages, denial, anger, bargaining, and depression, and you arrive at acceptance, you're under absolutely no illusion of what has happened and the void that has been left in your life, having lost, this significant person in your life. And depending on external influences and the help, that you get, it can be a very challenging aspect of grief.
Yeah, because to me it feels almost as though the first 4 stages are quite dreamlike.
Yes,
the anger and everything, and it's like you suddenly you gradually wake up, and there's acceptance, and it's a reinforcement, isn't it, of everything that was dreamlike was true.
Yes, exactly. And we don't have to like something in order to accept it. But, I mean, like most calamities or atrocities that happen in a person's life, they're usually not of your own making. So when you find yourself in a situation which can shatter you to your core, and you're left in the acceptance phase, it actually is the most difficult to circumvent. You have to learn to live around your new situation and this new sense of normality, and your new identity and who you have to become in order to survive.
Yeah, and it's interesting what we spoke of in the first part of the show, that you see yourself in a particular way, like a wife and mother, and other people see you like that. And part of that acceptance, as you've said, is getting used to it not being that way. But there's a daily reminder, and again, I think one of the things which is quite poignant to that is that you meet an old friend who hadn't heard of the passing, and they say, "Oh, how's Owen?" And it's, oh, yeah.
Exactly. I talk about this, you take 5 steps forward and then something can ambush you like that and you're 3 steps back. Or you hear a song, for example, a song that might have held some significance, as a couple.
Absolutely.
And you could be sitting in a waiting room and all of a sudden, you're brought right back there again. So, as I say, the nature of grief can be a very sinister one. And you have to really have many self-mechanisms to self-protection mechanisms to comfort yourself, and just to take each day an hour at a time, especially in the first 6 months, and to be gentle with yourself and to let go of expectations. And as I said before, to let go of the shoulds. You should be feeling a certain way. You shouldn't be feeling a certain way, because that just adds to your sense of stress levels. And this is also what I write about. Yes.
And again, because there's an interesting connection there, because when spirit come through and they want to obviously tell you they love you and they're still around you, but the way they give evidence as well, is in the same way as songs. You know, they are so emotive, and that's why Spirit used them. You know, and they say, "Oh, you know, do you remember our wedding? This was playing, and you know, Uncle Joe slipped off the chair, and all the memories come back." When we're connected to Spirit, it comes in a way that can be emotional, but it's still a relief. It's not compensatory really, but it's a positive thing. But as you say, when it's too early and too fresh, you know, it can be slightly destructive, can't you? As you say, pushes you back.
Absolutely. And it's a comfort knowing that, you know, our loved ones are still around in a different form and from a different place, very, very close by, just, you know, constantly helping you. And yes, they will send us many, many signs through magazines, through billboards, through television commercials, any way they possibly can. And especially via the dream state. That is the most effective way that they make their communication. But so just to be cognizant and to be alert and open to so many of these little signs that they will send and will continue to send to us.
Yes. And again, I think that's important because we can go into a shell, can't we? You know, and just we concentrate on the grief and, as you say, the anger and that, and we shut ourselves off. So sometimes Spirit need a little while to let us get to a point of acceptance.
Yes, because you know when you're in grief, you are emotionally wounded, and it's like looking at an animal. I mean, they retreat when they're hurt, usually physically, but I mean, human beings are much more complex than that. When we suffer an emotional shock and we're emotionally damaged, it's necessary to retreat into our own space, just to recharge our inner batteries and take alone time. And there's a section where I talk about loneliness can be a very positive thing to gain recovery. You know, in my book, it's not always a negative thing. Now, loneliness and solitude are different, and I go into this in detail.
We have to go now, but if you want to look it up, listen to the show again, and it's Phyllis Walsh, and it's called Returning to Me. Right back after this.
You've been listening to Leo Bonomo, the host of The Voice of Spirit, live every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the show, guests, and host of The Voice of Spirit, or to book a private reading, please visit leo-bonomo.com. That's leo-bonomo.com. Your connection to the other side is just a phone call away. The Voice of Spirit.
It is amazing, is it not?
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51. Wait, that doesn't exist. This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
In the deep recesses of one's mind, there is a voice, a guiding light through the darkness, a connection to the other side.
You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a poor little me.
Pathway to spiritual that echoes with enlightenment. The Voice of Spirit.
The Voice of Spirit.
You are a function of this total galaxy, bounded by the Milky Way, and that furthermore, this galaxy is a function of all other galaxies.
Your journey starts here and now. With your host and connection to Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, and a very, very warm welcome back. We were talking to the lovely Phyllis Walsh about her new book, and it's called Returning to Me. And as we discussed, it was It is on Amazon. I do apologise for that. There was a slight problem with Amazon in the US. There's a little typo there. It had to be the price, didn't it? But that's going to be sorted out within a week. So we were talking about that. So if you want to listen to that and you've just joined the show, you can get the show on archive, and it's very interesting. There's a lot of things that Phyllis brought up which are so relevant. Things that struck me that I hadn't consciously realized in all the years that I've been doing this as well. So it's a very, very worthwhile book, returning to me. So you can find that on Amazon. You can get it as a Kindle book as well. And we also were talking a very little bit about her first book, The Illusion of Mortality. And it's a wonderful title because whilst we are here and living this and literally feeling it and breathing it, it does seem very, very real. If we look from spirit point of view, when we pass over, they have the view that this is very dreamlike. In actual fact, it is. This life, though it's real to us, although it's solid to us, is a complete illusion. So it's a wonderful title, The Illusion of Mortality. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask that I can answer about the books, or you want to ask about the subjects in general, or you want to discuss a little bit about Alua Arthur, the death doula that we had on several weeks ago. If you want to talk about that, if you want a reading, then do call in 072 425 9230. So we're open here. Everything will be channeled. We're here to answer. I say we, I'm using the royal we, me and guides and whoever's in the background that may be waiting, to answer any questions that you have on mediumship, passing, whatever you want to talk about, reincarnation, whatever. While I'm here, I'm going to take advantage of the fact to say that if you want to donate to the show, you can go to KCOR Radio on the web, and you can go and find the shows. And if you want to click on this show, or indeed other shows, but if you want to click on this show and make a donation, even if it's $1 or the sterling equivalent, whatever that might be, whatever it is, if you want to donate, it's very, very gratefully accepted. It helps to keep everything going, and we would certainly appreciate it. Also, if you have a site that you want to advertise, this does go out to 105 different countries. If you have a site that you want to advertise, or you want to get a product or something through, we can accommodate with that. Just contact me, and you can contact me on www.leo-bonomo.com, and we can chat about sending getting something together for you, whether it's whatever it may be. So we can create adverts for you too, and much cheaper than other ways of advertising. And as I say, it does go around to 105 different countries in the world. So if that's something that you're interested in, either donations or you want to get an advert together, we can do something that we can repeat. And of course, it will be in the archive. So whilst it's a one-off payment, it's still hanging around there for people to listen to. So if you're interested in that, then do call in or do donate. Talking of books, there's my book Summerland. That's also on the web, and you can get that directly through my site, or you can contact me. I don't think it's on my site, but you can contact me through my site and I can post it to you, or you can of course get that through Amazon, either on Kindle or as a hardback copy. So if that's something that you're interested in, then that's certainly something we can do. That in itself is a very unusual book because it was written by automatic writing. And as we've discussed on the show before, automatic writing is a very trance-like state. So there are different levels to it. I used to write, I say I did. I happen to be holding the pen, as I usually say. But Spirit wrote poetry, all kinds of observations through there, and that's also in a book called A Book of Thoughts, which you can also get on Amazon. So if that's something that's interesting to you. The basic way that works is they can just influence the mind, and thoughts come into the mind, which I copy down, and that works quite successfully. That's great for me. But Summerland was written in a very different way. Spirit needed to get through succinctly, without any interference from myself, my personality, my characteristics, which can sometimes, it depends how light the overshadowing is, which can kind of get in the way. And so when it started to happen, I would get up, begin to write, maybe just a couple of lines, and I would pass out. So I would be completely unconscious, and Spirit were then free to write exactly what they needed to write. And the only time that I was conscious of what was written was when I would come round and read for the first time what had been written. And as mind-numbing as it may seem, I was gathering all these bits and pieces. I didn't quite realise it was a book. So I'm not quite as clever as I might seem. But I realised all these bits got together, and the amazing thing is, after a while, I realised that even though there was a year's gap at one point, that when the communication started to come through, it came through at exactly the next word. And one of the interesting things which you may find quite fascinating about the book is that when this happened, there are half a dozen different characters who wrote particular parts of the book. Now, I hadn't realised that in reading the book, after I'd got everything together, that was pointed out to me. But when I went back to the original manuscripts, I could see that there were physical differences in the writing, and it would have been wonderful for me to have the original manuscript. That was written on all different bits of paper, sometimes the backs of envelopes. It's whatever I could get hold of when I woke up in the middle of the night by Spirit saying, we need to work. So that's So that's kind of where that is. So even the writing was all different, and it was all scraps of paper. We've got Darcy on the line now. So hi, Darcy. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. And what did you think of Phyllis? She's a very interesting lady, isn't she?
Oh, she was. She was very interesting.
Yeah.
And you know, it takes a lot of courage to write a book like that. I mean, people aren't always open to that.
Yeah, because writing a book can be difficult. I'm on my third now, and there's more of me in it, if that would make sense. So I'm finding that very difficult. When it was written by Spirit completely, I've got to admit, quite easy. I was just happened to be holding the pen, so I didn't find any difficulty, and it all flowed. Now I'm trying to write my own, and it's a completely different thing altogether. But one thing I have realised with some things that can be very personal, that can be cathartic, we can work through them. But yes, it must be very difficult, because I think you get to a point where you're dealing with it. You're okay, everything's all right. We're calm, and then of course you start writing, and for the book to be effective, it has to be emotionally engaging. So you dredge up those feelings of what happened at the time and how it affected you. So it's a very hard thing to do, to write that type of book, because it's not like a crime thriller, where somebody gets murdered and you just kind of write it. It's a bit like watching a film. You can see the film. You get emotionally involved to a point, because it makes the film interesting.
Yeah.
But it's not like living the thing again.
Yeah, like just laying everything out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I should imagine that you feel quite naked and vulnerable when you're doing that, because the things that really hurt excuse me, my throat's going. The things that really hurt are the things that certainly in her case, they're the things that are really going to help people. So it's no holds barred. It must have been an extremely painful thing to do. Okay. I know you want to read it.
Well, I was kind of wondering. My best friend in high school, she's somebody I've known like 40 years. Her daughter Brandy died like 3-4 years ago, and she's never come through. So I mean, I know you can't control who comes through, but I'm just curious if she would actually come through.
Right. I've got a lady. I've got to be honest, I'm not sure it's her. This lady has got dark brown hair. It's nicely kept. I can see that there's weight on the lady, if I'm perfectly honest. Lovely, lovely personality. She doesn't seem to me to be that old. I can see she's got quite rosy cheeks, and the skin is slightly shiny. So I know it's quite youthful because there's lots of what's the word I want?
Yeah.
There's lots of moisture.
She wasn't very old when she died. Like,
sorry,
I want to say 30, maybe.
30. Okay. So I know the skin looks quite youthful, and there's lots of moisture in the skin. Would you understand whether that was Brandy? So she does carry a little bit of weight on her face and her body. Would that make any sense to you?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, when she got sick and she died from breast cancer, so she wasn't very heavy when she died. She probably carried a little weight though before that when she was healthy, but
okay. Well, it'd be nice if you can confirm with your friend, but I've got this lady anyway. Let's say I'm not entirely sure it's her, but as soon as we started talking, she's popped up. So I'm just going to have a little listen.
Okay.
I'm being told it was a relatively short, unusual word, entanglement or affection or being affected by cancer. This lady's talking about it being about 2 years. So it was either discovered fairly late as it was beginning to take great effect, or it was something, that's an evocative word. She's described it as carnivorous, so it would have been very, very aggressive cancer. Would that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
she learned about it like just before Thanksgiving, and then she died the next year, like just before Christmas. So she only made it about a year.
Right, because she's talking about it must have started about 2 years, a very short period. But it's interesting that she uses that word because, again, it's very evocative. It was carnivorous. That was the exact word she was using, which has kind of affected me a bit. It gives a real image, doesn't it, of it just kind of literally eating away at the body. I'm just going to try and push some of those thoughts out of my head. She's got a very vivid imagination. I've no doubt there was some creativity there, but it's just the words that she's using and some of the images that I'm getting, which I know to be of inside the body. And when you look under a slide and there's a microscope and you can see germs and that moving around and kind of. She's giving me that kind of image of the cancer just kind of growing exponentially. Well, we're at sort of cell level here, but I can just see the whole thing just kind of bubbling away, very aggressive. She says, again, her words very descriptive. She says she was riddled with it. So I don't think it was just cancer in one part. She uses that term. I'm going to change that because it's, for some reason, it's really affecting me. It was very aggressive, so it just kind of, there was just an explosion with it. Now, I just want to try and get her past this.
Will she say anything about her family, or?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to, bless her. It really knocked her for six in spirit. And I can tell by the way she's coming through, there's still an effect there. And I think that's why she's not been able to come through before. She feels she's learned differently, but she says when she first got it and when she first went over, she felt it was completely unjustified. Why her? All those kinds of feelings. And she said, I was so angry that so much was taken away. So that was her personally, but she also realised, of course, that so much was taken away from her family. So I think this is one of the reasons that she hadn't come through. She's calming down a little bit now. Sometimes when they first come through, they kind of relive everything, which is what's happened to her, which is why she got so emotional. But she's kind of getting a lid on it now. She knows her mum and the rest of the family were devastated. She says she didn't understand how deeply they were affected until sometime after she'd passed over. Again, there's a rehabilitation. She wants her mum to know that she appreciated everything that she did. She said she did as much as she could. I know that she felt guilty. Would you understand money being an issue? Because she's counting out coins for me, so I know money was fairly tight at the time.
Yes.
And I think, obviously, treatment would have been affected by that. And she wants to say that whilst she was dreadfully ill, certainly towards the end, she doesn't want her mum to blame herself for anything. It was one of those things. I think her mum is still quite affected by it, but she hopes by coming back to say that actually things are okay. They're not too bad from where she is. She understands things differently. She wants her mum to understand that there is only so much you can do in given circumstances. So she's very grateful. She does understand that obviously it got to a point where, in her words, money was wasted. So would you know whether she passed in hospital? Because that's the impression she's giving me.
Yeah, I think she was at the end. I think that she tried to do a lot. You know, she'd go have treatments and then go home and then back and forth. But I think at the end, she was at the hospital.
Okay, because she does have one or two regrets about that. And the regrets mostly was that close to that point, it didn't really matter what was done. It would have been nice for her to be at home for her mum to look after, but also that obviously it was just costing more at a point where there was nothing else to do. So she does appreciate that. She talks about still being quite angry at the funeral. Again, this feeling of life being snatched away from her. She had a lot of opportunities, didn't she, to do things. She was a very bright lady.
Yeah, she was, and she did a lot of things. She was very bright and bubbly, and she was a lot of fun and very smart, and but she was married to a man that didn't treat her very well, and I know why she's angry at the funeral, because there was people there that shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that happens, and of course, when we're passed over, we don't have a lot of control unless we physically write it in the will. I get the feeling she didn't leave a will at all, but I can see the anger there of, again, such creativity, such promise, such imagination, and that's why she felt she was cheated. Okay. Would you know whether the partner that treated her badly is not in contact very much with the family? Because this is what she's indicating. She seems to be fairly happy about that, without making sense.
Yeah, because he was cheating on her with her best friend, and the family is still very angry about that. So,
she understands that anger. She says it's not constructive, it's destructive. We know people have long memories, but she wants to try and get through to her mum and the family that it's in the past, it doesn't matter now. I can see again why there was that anger, because obviously if she wasn't well, it appears quite uncaring, doesn't it, to just carry on else. So I can understand all the anger and emotion that was there. Fantastic. Do you want to hang on after the break, because we've got a minute or so to go, and it'll still be lovely to talk to you. Fantastic. Okay, so we're just going to go into a break in a minute. We're going to carry on talking to a regular caller, Darcy, and we shall be back straight after this, so don't go away.
This is the voice of spirit, your connection to the other side.
To understand something spiritually, you must experience it. And in order to experience it, you have to experience it in your imagination.
Explore with us by calling 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Everything that now exists was once imagined. Therefore, everything that is going to exist must first be imagined.
Back with your guide to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Leo Bonomo.
After these brief words from our sponsors.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about, at least not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on that vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Monday nights are about to become hauntingly good, as Reverend Sean Whittington possesses the airwaves with Vegas Supernatural. Tune in every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for Vegas Supernatural, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. There's a war raging between good and evil. The question is, which side are you fighting on? Tune in Monday nights as Reverend Sean Whittington sets the new standard for paranormal radio with some of the most influential personalities in the world today. Vegas Supernatural, hosted by Reverend Sean Whittington, every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The one show even the devil doesn't want you to hear.
what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
You can't buy or sell marijuana for recreational purposes in D.C. Giving it away is okay, though. So some businesses have come up with
Give it away. Wait a minute. Recreational marijuana is legal, but you can't sell it.
You can only gift it. Okay.
Some businesses have come up with clever ways to sell a non-cannabis product while giving away marijuana with it.
Here's a bag of cookies. They're only $48.
But the pot's free. Wow.
Don't forget your milk.
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
One of the planet's most powerful antioxidant products is here for you to enjoy. Chaga Mushroom Tea. This tea has been used as a potent natural health solution for thousands of years. In fact, the Chinese call it King of the Herbs. The health value alone is worth a look as Chaga Mushroom Tea packs a punch with pure vitality and smooth energy. It's 100% wild crafted, safe, and effective. Get it now at arcticchaga.com. That's ARCTICCHAGA.com or call 916-969-2678. That's 916-969-2678. Chaga Mushroom Tea.
Chaga Mushroom Tea.
Order your supply today.
Welcome back to the Voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
There's no accidents in this universe. We all show up here with a purpose. There's an intelligence that is a part of everything and everyone, and all of us are connected to it.
Connect with us on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Even better, join us live in our chat room at KCORradio.com. To get a free reading during the show, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. And now, inspirational clairvoyant medium, psychic, and your connection to the spirit, the host of the Voice of Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, a very, very warm welcome back. Before the break, I was doing a little reading for Darcy, and I'm so terrible with names, and Brandy came through, and there was overwhelming anger, frustration, a feeling of being cheated on life, and we've got Darcy back because we were having a little interesting chat during the break, and I've just realised, because I can be a little bit thick, that I was using the word cheated and cheated of life before the break. And Darcy, you were explaining that she was actually being cheated on by her partner, wasn't she?
Yes. Her husband was cheating on her. Yes.
Yeah.
The whole time she was sick, and just before she died, and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, and as you say, you know, carrying through, and afterwards, you know, when she'd gone, him obviously inheriting some sort of money or the house or whatever, and going on a spending spree and enjoying himself. And if you've just joined this segment of the show, it's still affecting me a little bit now. It's an interesting insight into how mediums work, because when she stepped forward, I was just hit with so much anger, so much frustration, this feeling of having life ripped away from her, that I wasn't getting the full message. I just understood there was this wall of emotion and anger coming at me, which was a couple of times a bit difficult, and it's still difficult. A couple of times have been quite difficult to handle. And, you know, as a medium, these things happen, and we don't always understand, believe it or not, the reason for why everything is given in a particular way. And so we get some of the picture, and quite often the dots are filled in by the person being read for, or the connection, as in this case Darcy. And it was nice just to have not just some validation of that, but to understand why there was such a wall of emotion. So thank you, Darcy, for that.
Yeah. She really did have it rough. I mean, she probably didn't deserve all that, and I'm sure there's some reason for it all, but I can understand her anger.
Yeah, I mean, I can now. As I say, I didn't understand why I was being hit with this wall of frustration and anger. So it's nice to get feedback, Yeah, thank you so much. As for the experience, there can be all kinds of reasons why she experienced not only that type of passing, but what happened to her in life. I know it seems quite harsh to say that we ask for particular experiences, and we could quite rightly say, well, who would ask for that? When we say who would ask for that, we are doing that from a human point of view. It doesn't make sense to us, why we should ask for those kinds of negative experiences, devastating experiences. From a spirit point of view, of course, it's a completely different matter. You also mentioned, Darcy, didn't you, that she mentioned to the family that she would be that she would say to the family that she was an atheist and throw that kind of thing around. And
I'm not sure she was, but I know she said it to bug like her sister, and most of her family is pretty religious. I wouldn't say all of them, and they have pretty strict views on a lot of things, and so I'm not sure she was an atheist, but I'm sure she said that to bug them, because it was kind of like rebelling against their beliefs.
Yeah, I can understand, because we're all human. We do sometimes snap and bite back and think, right, well, I'm just going to say this and it's going to annoy you. That's the point. So I really do get that. But it also brings up the point of how religion, in a sense, is quite important when we pass over, and important not from the point of view of I'm a Catholic, I've been great, I'm going to sit at God's right hand, with Jesus, and we're going to heaven. It's not from that point of view. Quite often strong religious thoughts hold us back. They colour things in spirit, and we have to, if I say live, we're more alive over there than we are here, a lot more. But we have to live through it. We have to get it out of our system so we understand where it is exactly we are. And as we know, ultimately, there's no religion in spirit. There's only spirit and the Creator. But it can colour our views a lot. And if she was from a very or fairly religious family, and that had affected her, I could understand that anger and frustration even more on getting over and thinking, this is me, I'm damned. I've said I was an atheist. I was annoying people. And, I may be where I might have expected to be. So it's an interesting mix. I find it fascinating with readings that sometimes appear so simple on the surface, and there's layers and layers of it. So it's very nice to be able to explain that, and for you to come up with that. Have you got any questions, Darcy, on anything? I've got the feeling your grandmother is floating around again. I keep seeing her. She's kind of zooming in. But in films when they zoom in on a point and zoom out again, I've kind of got that effect. And I think it's partly.
She's always here.
Yeah, it's partly to say I'm here, take notice of me, and I think she's just enjoying the visual effect that she's given me, which is actually making me feel a bit dizzy, I've got to say. Let's see. Okay. She's just said, promises, promises, promises. I made promises to you, some of which I haven't been able to keep. But I need you to know that those that can be kept or influenced, and those things you wish for, keep aiming for. So I understand the words. I've no idea of the context of it. Would that make sense to you?
I guess so, because last time we talked, she was talking about I was going to get a house. So I'm guessing she's talking about that, because she has mentioned several times that I'm going to move. And I think that's what she's talking about.
Okay, you know that side-to-side movement with your hand when you're going, oh, I'm not so sure. She's actually doing that. So I think that may be a small part of it. But this is more promises when you were young and growing up. And, we sometimes we get told wonderful stories, don't we, by grandparents.
Yeah.
I never had the privilege.
Man,
and they say,
maybe with my cousins. I know she wants us all to get together. None of us live near each other, but I know she's kind of been pushing for us to get together.
Right, she's nodding vigorously because she says that had come up in readings before. I know it's easier said than done. It does bring me back really to what Phyllis Walsh in the first half of the show was actually saying about, don't put things away for best. Don't hide them and make a monument of them. Use them.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, and it's reminded me really of what Phyllis said and what your grandmother said and you've just said. So there's a whole connection there. It can be difficult to contact relatives that live at a distance. It would be nice if you could Skype them or they could Skype you or FaceTime or something, because sorry, she just said, something, distance isn't what it was. And what she means by that is years ago, if you lived in America and you had cousins in Australia, it was a hell of a journey to get there, for a few weeks to come back, it was exorbitant. But of course we have FaceTime now. So the inconvenience really maybe the cost.
Yeah,
but it's
that's
at the
true.
Right time.
It's true. I should get a hold of them.
Yeah, because it would be a nice thing to do. Because again, it's those little things in life that we begin to regret when not only when we've perhaps passed over, but when families passed over, and you go, I kept telling them I was going to come and see her, and I was going to ring her up, and you don't. Life does get in the way of living.
Yeah. And we're the only ones left, so actually we probably should get together. So, because everybody else is gone. So.
Yeah, your grandmother just said something really funny. Well, it's just funny. It depends how you want to take it. But she said, "Better a reunion here than a reunion over there. A reunion over there is certain." but
she is a card, isn't she?
she is. I mean, it's a lovely way of putting it. But I can imagine some people saying, well, that's all right for you to say. I haven't got the money to travel to Australia or whatever. Because I know sometimes we do. It's kind of heartbreaking in a way, isn't it? We say, well, look, I've not seen Uncle Joe for 25 years. He's getting on. I want to go see him before he pops it. And it's not really the sentiment you want. I mean, we understand it, but there's an urgency there of I've got to get round to see him before he goes. He may outlive us, you never know. But there's that kind of mentality, and so we do put those things off because we realise the urgency. And certainly nowadays, you think, well, look, you don't have to save to go over and see him. Yes, it'd be nice. just get on the phone. It's a common complaint, isn't it? Certainly here, of older people, that they get abandoned. Family don't get to see them, even if they live around the corner. And the older person is I suppose that's incarcerated in their home. You know, they go from there to the shops and back, and they don't get, people don't call. So I think it's wonderful, actually, how your grandmother has helped to weave this in to the message that Phyllis has given in the interview, but certainly in the book. It's those things that we regret later on, isn't it? You know, I was very lucky when my dad passed, because I was able to say I love you a couple of days physically before he died, but it was a time before I'd found out. Again, I know it seems strange as a psychic not to know that he'd passed over, but I understand why that was hidden from me, because when I finally found out, it did hit me like a train. That whole month was gone. I remember very little about it, so I can understand
that.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been devastating, I think, for him to come through. And of course he didn't, and he wouldn't, because he knew he would know the effect. Yeah, so, you know, I was very lucky. I was able to tell him I love him. There's Jesse Ventura's son, Tyrone, who's on RT, Russian television.com. And at the end of his show, he always says, you know, we don't say I love you enough, so I want to tell you, you know, the public listening, that I love you. And again, I think it's a wonderful sentiment. It's something which can be easily said, which is so often left. I think we take it for granted, you know, that sometimes people love us, but we just don't say it. It's
true. It's true.
It's actually quite sad. Have you got any questions? We've got probably about 6 or 7 minutes left.
Well, while we have Grandma here, does she have anything to say about Little Bear, my dog?
Now I'm getting an image of the dog. I'm really bad with breeds.
She's a border collie.
She's a what? Sorry.
She's a border collie. She's black and white.
Right. Is it a smooth coat or is it curly? Because I'm seeing something quite curly, and it reminded me not so much of fur but of wool. Because there are some dogs that have wool rather than fur.
She's not smooth coat, but she's pretty furry. But it's not really woolly. That's kind of the other one. Annabelle is the Chesapeake Bay. She's got kind of black curly hair.
Right. Okay. Because I just got an image of a dog. The dog. Second. The bear, the dog that you mentioned, seems to be getting an awful lot more love lately. I don't know whether there's something wrong or it's just been paid more attention. But your grandmother appreciates the fact that attention's being paid to it. I think she's very fond of the dog as well. As you know, they communicate with spirit.
She told you before she comes in the middle of the night and plays with her. So.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, bless. So, right. So there's a really strong connection there. Okay. That makes sense. But she's just giving the feeling of giving it extra love and cuddles. And to be honest, I wasn't sure whether it was because the dog needs it or needs healing. But now that you've said that, it makes sense that she just wants to do that. So there isn't anything specific except that she's really fond of the dog, as you already know.
Well, and she fell out of the pickup yesterday. When I was driving down the road, the window was open and she was hanging out the window around the corner and she fell out. But I found her. I came back and found her. And she was okay. She scraped her face up a little bit, but she's okay.
Oh, right. Okay. So the feeling that I was getting of healing or something, that was connected as well. Because to be honest, I dismissed that because there's such a close connection. I kind of dismissed that feeling of her paying a bit more attention. Okay. Oh, bless. Well, I'm sure she'll. Bear will try and be a little more careful in hanging out the window. Bless her.
I can't believe she did that. I looked over and there's only one dog. I'm like, where did she go? She fell out the window.
Oh, bless. Yeah. So other than that, there's nothing much, to be honest with you. Lots of love, lots of humour. Keep your eye on the target is what she's saying. So again, this is connected to the house. She's written job, so there's a whole lot of connection there. She's never far away. She does reiterate that, but she also wants to say, that she does love you dearly and she's looking out for you. So I know that she says, I do visit the dog or dogs, but it's as much visiting you and letting you know that she's around. So there's just that expression there.
Oh, she's saying that now. Last time she said she just came to visit the dog. She was making a joke. She was like, yeah, I just here for the dog,
Oh, right. Yeah, that would make sense. I'm seeing a big old kitchen with pots and pans and things hanging down. Have you heard that old rock and roll record of in the kitchen and rattling those pots and pans? I'm hearing that in the background.
Yes.
But she's kind of playing drums on the pots and pans, etc. But she's saying, that they have a whale of a time over there. She says we are always laughing. There are some serious things which need to be taken care of, because I know she loves people and she looks after people there as well as animals.
Yeah.
But she's just saying we have a whale of a time here. So I don't know whether she's just trying to make you jealous that they're still having a fantastic time, or that she's just she appreciates the company when she comes through. But take her great love, honey, and I'm sure we'll speak soon.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bless you, Darcy. You take care.
Bless you too. Thank you, Leo.
Thank you. Okay, well, we've got a few minutes to kind of wrap up the show. I hope you've enjoyed it. It was nice for me to get nice for me to get that connection with Brandy, and that emotion, and hopefully that there's a little explanation there of how so much can be conveyed. Sometimes that bypasses the medium, but is picked up by the person getting the message. And I find that happens quite a lot. A good message operates on a simple sentence, may hit several different levels and several different emotions at once. And Spirit are excellent at conveying all that information, all that emotion in perhaps something quite simple. So it was nice for Darcy to validate that for me and understand why I was getting so emotionally connected to Brandy, that was having a real difficult time. It's also nice to see that transition of the way that she felt, her first time coming through, and the inexperience showing, but then gradually getting some control in order to give the message. It is difficult for Spirit when they first come through, because being that inexperienced, what they tend to do is they relive the events leading up to the passing and the passing itself. And so they relive all those emotions of going into that and what people felt and how they felt afterwards. It can be difficult to deal with. It can be all-consuming. For them, it can, like me, just hit you like a wall and they get overwhelmed. So when Spirit come through for you, if they're inexperienced, do try and make allowances for that. They get used to it pretty quickly. They get used to introducing themselves with the way they pass them, and that in a non-emotional way for identification. But as I say, when they come through, first of all, it can be overwhelming for them, and no doubt overwhelming for us. if you've been listening to the show again, if you want to buy the book Returning to Me by Phyllis Walsh, you can get it on Amazon. It is as an ebook or in paperback. If you're in the States and you want to buy it, you are advised to leave it for a week or so, because there was a typo on the cost and we don't want you to overpay. Having said that, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Lots of light, lots of love. You know that your loved ones are caring for you and they're there. And goodbye until next week. God bless.
You've been listening to Leo Bonomo, the host of The Voice of Spirit. Live every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the show, guests, and host of The Voice of Spirit, or to book a private reading, please visit leo-bonomo.com. That's leo-bonomo.com. Your connection to the other side is just a phone call away. The Voice of Spirit.
It is amazing, is it not?
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51. Wait, that doesn't exist. This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.